many of you have ever attended an event where you've had to wear a name label? Show of hands. I've had the privilege of being both a giver and a receiver of name labels. And when giving name labels, I've had the distinct pleasure of experiencing 4 different kinds of reactions. The very first reaction is joyful submission. That's the person who says, well, thank you. I want to be known and I want to know others. And I look forward to being part of this particular event. March right into the event and are as happy as can be. The second one is pretty typical. Reluctant acquiescence. They simply put on the name tag because you asked them to. They go into the event and wear it not really wanting to, but they do anyway. The third one is my favorite. It's pure rebellion. I will not be labeled. You are not giving me a name tag. And no, I'm going into that event anyway, and I will speak to whoever I want to speak to. Now, the fourth one is your passive aggressive. That's the individual that comes in, says, all right, I'll wear the name tag, but as soon as they get to their first bathroom stop, it's straight into the garbage with them. In life, just like with regular events, we carry a lot of labels with us. But what is a label? A label is simply a description that we give ourselves and others. Sometimes they're harmless, but sometimes they can create boxes that are very hard for us to break out of. Today, what I'm going to talk about is several labels that I've received as both a child and an adult. And I want to share that with you because labels are just so difficult to get rid of sometimes, right? To help me demonstrate, I have my model. She will also be Jane today. Now, in childhood, I had many great labels. Smart and outgoing. By my favorite 3rd grade teacher, I was labeled talkative. There are labels that you can't escape. I was born an only child. There were labels I could have done without. And also some that were just given to me that I did not enjoy. Lazy. And then there were some labels that really affected me. You see, as a child, the labels that you receive really stick with you for a very, very long time. Now let's take a look at some labels I received in adulthood. I'm still Jane, and those labels still exist, but now I'm an adult. Of course, as adults, you get more labels. You get some labels that are enjoyable. I was considered a go-getter in all of my jobs, and also very reliable. I enjoyed that label. I was also considered a fast learner. Now, as I became more proficient in my adult world, I also had some very enjoyable labels. I became a wife and a mom. But there are also some things that happened to me in my adult world that were not so enjoyable. I was a pregnant teen. I also became a battered wife. And again, I wore a huge label of victim. So What are the advantages and disadvantages of having labels? For me, the advantages of having labels is that life just has order. It's straightforward. It saves us time. I was an only child. My mom came to me. I was known as reliable at work, so a lot of people came to me, and I was more than happy to fulfill those labels. We also know what's expected of us. As an only child, I knew when the phone call was going to be made to somebody, it was going to be me from my mom. But it also gives us permission to do what is easiest for us, not necessarily what's best. So just like a real label, the labels we receive in life sometimes are hard to remove. And if we do remove them, they have a residue that is left behind. Let's talk about some disadvantages of having labels. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you in that box. And really, it just keeps you limited. So what have I done? This is what I've done in my life with my labels. I've decided to do something completely different. I've decided that I am now in charge of the labels that I receive. I own the power to accept those labels and to put them on myself. So now, the labels I choose for myself are these. I am successful. I am loving and lovable. I am patient. And I am kind. I am a loyal friend. And I have learned to be forgiving. I now live a life that's purposeful and I am free. What about you? What labels are you carrying around that are keeping you a little bit stuck? Think about how they might be limiting your beliefs and keeping you in that tightly bound box. Consider joining me and decide to be in charge and now take on these labels of freedom. Thank you.